Assalamu alaikum students, this is Qalab Abbas and we are going to start our first lecture on global marketing. As you know that because of this coronavirus outbreak, we have to deliver all the lectures online. Uh, we have set up a class at Google Classroom and mashallah every one of you is registered on that particular class. Please note that I will be uploading all the cases, all the assignments and quizzes on that particular portal, and my all the lectures would be video recorded so that you can access them on your own convenience, and it would be present there at the time of the class on at the time that on which the actual class happened in the normal hours. So what we have covered up till now in this particular course is that what is the importance of global marketing and why it is necessary in this very rapidly changing world of globalization. That is why the very first chapter that we covered uh, was was to understand what globalization is and what are the factors that are driving this globalization across the world, and what are some of the ways managers are tackling them. Then the second chapter that we covered was all about how countries are different in respect to their culture, the political economy, the religion, the languages, the education system, the governmental system, and how these differences impact businesses. So, and this third particular chapter that we are going to that we have already started covered that what are some of the strategies in which organizations can can tackle these differences, and how organizations can take advantage of all the benefits and opportunities globalization has to offer. So this is in this particular chapter we have covered up till now that there are two major pressures that organizations face when they grow global. One is that they face this pressure of being locally responsive, because as I've mentioned that every country is different. And the second biggest pressure that countries faces nowadays, because of huge competition, and especially competition coming from different parts of the world, is the pressure for reducing their cost. So these are two basic pressures that we concluded and we learned and we discussed in the previous classes, and today we would expand on that why these pressures exist and how organizations can tackle these issues. So the first pressure that organizations face is the pressure for being cost effective. And being cost effective, as I have explained in my classes as well, being cost effective comes with certain requirements. For example, if you want to offer customization, if you want to offer more features, you obviously need to have to compromise on the cost. The cost would definitely go up. On the other hand, if you want to reduce the cost, you have to sacrifice some of the features, maybe the quality, maybe the range of features that they are going to offer, maybe the customization, maybe the distribution channel. So there is some sacrifice that every organization have to bear if they want to reduce the cost. So how to strike a balance between being locally responsive, in which you have to change everything, every product and every aspect of a particular product should suit countries' requirements and customers. On the other hand, how to reduce the cost as well so that you can stay competitive. So when do the pressures of cost reduction are the greatest? So where this type of pressure is usually greatest in industries that produce commodities like products that fill universal need. For example, organizations that are producing steel, organizations that are producing iron, organizations that are producing agricultural product that do not have much differentiation and do not have much differences in their outputs or in their products. When major competitors, moreoverly, many of the times major competitors are based in low cost economies where excess capacity is persistent and where consumers are powerful and face low switching costs. So when a firm faces pressures for cost reduction, it has to try to lower the cost of the value creation. Firms can try to lower the cost by mass producing, standardizing their products at optimal locations, or outsourcing to low cost suppliers. Organizations can also reduce their cost by standardizing their products, as I've mentioned, we have learned this concept of economies of scale in the previous class as well. So if the organization has achieved economies of scale by producing mass product in a standard form, then organization can definitely reduce its cost. Many of the companies also outsource their production facilities to countries where they can get location economies. And as we have discussed again in the previous class about location economies, the fact about location economy is that there are different locations all around the world where producing a certain commodity is much cheaper than producing that commodity in some other location. For example, if you want to produce an agriculture product, it would be cheaper for you to produce that agriculture product in Pakistan as compared to producing that agriculture product in Saudi Arabia, because in Pakistan we have all the conducive environment. We have land better suited, we have weathers, we have agriculture system, we have the whole water irrigation system that is much conducive and much suitable for agriculture product. But on the other hand, if you want to produce some innovation related product, some technology related product, then maybe USA, Japan would be more suitable because of their higher education system, the facilities that they provide, the skill set of their people. So different locations have different advantages when it comes to producing a certain commodity. So if you want to reduce the cost, if organizations want to reduce the cost, they need to produce standard product, and then they need to locate their production facilities to places where it would be much more convenient for them to produce that particular commodity. For example, to take advantage of this lower wage cost and location economies, from 2007 up till now, many of the British and US organizations have relocated their call centers in India. Compared to, on the other hand, they provide best facilities to different call centers and software houses that are operating in India and Pakistan. Even then, they are being operated at a very less cost as compared to call centers and software houses that are being operated in USA and UK. So there are certain things that you can do if you want to reduce the costs. On the other hand, there, as I have explained earlier in my class, that there is also a huge pressure of modifying and of being. So another reason because of which organizations need to adapt according to the changings in the according to the countries and changes that they face in different countries is that because is the difference in infrastructure and traditional practices. Um, even if you can compare Pakistan with America, the road infrastructure, the land infrastructure, the IT infrastructure, even all the legal facilities that we have in US, we don't have in Pakistan, or even if we have that in Pakistan, the facilities are much more different as compared to that of US. So these differences in infrastructure and traditional practices between country can also force our companies to adapt their strategies. If you ever traveled to Europe, for example, you have probably encountered different voltage requirements. In US it's 110 voltage requirement. Even in Pakistan it's 220 voltage requirements. And I personally have faced this problem many times, that whenever someone sends some gift from abroad and you use it without adapter, it certainly becomes broken. So these differences of course would require companies to sell their products and redesign their products and meet the voltage requirements in each of the every country. And then there are many other infrastructural differences as well. For example, in US there is left-hand drive. In Pakistan it's right-hand drive. So if Toyota is manufacturing cars for both of these economies, so they have to adapt and they have to change their requirements accordingly. Another reason why organizations need to adapt is the differences in the distribution channel, as we have discussed previously in the case that we discussed in the class about Toys R Us expanding in Japan. So one of the biggest problem that Toys R Us was facing was because of the changing and different distribution channel in America and in Japan. So difference in distribution channel also prompt companies to change. For example, in Brazil, about 36% of food retailing takes place through supermarkets. In Russia, supermarket sales accounts for less than 1% of food retailing. So imagine an organization selling in both of these markets. They need to adapt, they need to change, and they need to reconfigure their distribution channels according to the requirements of the countries. Another very major distance or difference between countries is, last but not least, is the government. There are different tax policies. Every economy is different, hence every government has their own rules and regulations and have their own policies. This means that what taxes they are imposing, what legal structures they have, what facilities governments are providing to different organizations are totally different. For example, in US, pharmaceuticals have to go through FDA testing and food products have to be labeled with nutrition information. On the other hand, many poor countries, they do not have these kind of requirements. So but an organization that is dealing in both of these economies have to adapt and have to change their systems and have to change their packaging accordingly. For example, in many other economies, sometimes government forcefully make organizations liable to use 60 to 70% of the raw material sourced from their own country. On the other hand, so this can actually make a huge difference at the end product that the company is going to produce. So what organization need to do? Organization need to understand and they need to adapt that how governments are different and what are different changes that government is requiring from them before they start and implement their products. So, considering these two major differences and two major pressures, number one, the organization have this huge cost pressure on them, and then secondly, organizations have this huge pressure for being locally responsive. So, how to strike a balance and what are different strategies that organizations can follow? I am on slide number 21 of my lecture that I have uploaded, and this include 4 different strategies that organization can actually follow. And Michael Porter gave us these 4 strategies that when organization find itself in one of those two situations. Now these are the 4 strategies that are most suitable. So and these strategies namely are global standardization, localization, internationalization strategy, and transnational strategy. There are 4 basic strategies to compete in the international market. The appropriateness of each strategy depends on the pressure of cost reduction and pressure of being locally responsiveness in the industry. Global standardization. If we can focus on global standardization focuses on increasing profitability and profit growth by capitalizing on the cost reduction that comes from economies of scale, learning effects, and the cohesion economy. So this means that organizations should be following global standardization strategy if organization is facing huge cost reduction pressures than being locally responsive. So if the pressure for being locally responsiveness is low in your industry or in your case as compared according to your product, so it would be better for you to be following global standardization strategy rather than any other strategy. Now how you can follow global standardization strategy? As the name suggests, it focuses on reducing the cost and increasing the profitability and profit growth by capitalizing on the cost reduction that comes from economies of scale, learning effects, and location economies. When when the strategy makes sense only when the pressure is high for cost reduction but low for being locally responsible. Because if you are producing standard product, bear in mind you cannot use the same product from one country to another country. So this strategy would only make sense when the pressure for cost reduction is low and the pressure for cost reduction is high and pressure for being locally responsiveness is low. The goal is to pursue a low cost strategy on a global scale. So a firm pursuing this type of strategy usually locate in few optimal locations and produce standardized products. So the first assignment that we are going to have, the first quiz that we are going to have, is that you need to submit me 5 organizations that you think are following global standardization strategy. So again, bear in mind that global standardization strategy is a strategy where organization tries to reduce its cost. They tries to take advantage of the location economies. They try to develop standard products so that they can achieve the optimal cost reduction, and hence they can provide a much more cost effective product that any other organization is providing. One example that I can give you is the example of Samsung or Motorola. They are producing standard product. One model of Samsung that is launched in Pakistan is exactly the same that the model that they produce and sell in America. And you have to come up with five other organizations that are following, according to you, global standardization strategy. The second strategy that we are going to discuss today, and this would be the last strategy that we are going to discuss today, and inshallah, I would be uploading my next lecture in few couple of other days, is the localization strategy. Localization strategy is exactly the opposite of standardization strategy, as the name suggests. As far as the standardization strategy was concerned, it was more suitable for the organizations which are facing huge cost pressures, and very low pressure for being locally responsive. On the other hand, localization strategy is suitable where organization is facing huge pressure for being locally responsive, and but a very minimum pressure or minimal pressure for being cost effective. So the localization strategy focuses on increasing profitability and profit growth by customizing their firm's goods to meet the needs and preferences of the local markets. So when an organization should be following localization strategy, this strategy is more appropriate and suitable when consumer taste and substantial difference between countries and pressure for cost reductions are low. Firm using a localization strategy increases the value of their products to the local market by better meeting local needs. Since cost pressures are low, the additional cost that comes with the customization don't present a problem. Here is another quiz. This is a combination of the quiz that we previously had. You have to come up with five organizations that you think are following localization strategy. Again, let me review or reassure what is meant by localization strategy. Localization strategies is when organization have to modify and they have to change their requirements because there is a huge difference in maybe the governmental requirements, in maybe tastes and preferences of the customers that we are going to target. Maybe the road infrastructure or infrastructure requirements are different. So is a huge difference between different countries. So if an organization is dealing in such industries and they are producing such product which need to be modified from country to country, they should be following localization strategy. So the quiz is that you need to come up with five organizations that are following, according to you, localization strategies. One example that I can give you is the example of MTV, music television. So MTV is the channel that always modifies and changes its content according to the countries. If you look at MTV America, it broadcasts a very different content as compared to MTV Pakistan. So there is no comparison between the content that is being produced in both of that is being produced and consumed in both of these economies. So that is it. There is a quiz attached with it that you have to submit me by tomorrow 12 o'clock, and that is you have to come up with five organizations that you think are following standardization strategy, and then you have to come up with five organizations that you think are following localization strategies. Okay, over and out. Inshallah, I will be uploading more lectures in coming days, and I expect all of you to pay attention and listen to the lectures very very carefully and attempt all the assignments and quizzes accordingly and within the given time, because this is how you would be evaluated from now on forward. Please do let me know if you're facing any problems regarding accessing the lectures, accessing the assignments, understanding the assignments. We have very active discussion board. You can post your questions there. It would be good so that other students can also view those questions and the answers that I would be giving to you. Okay, Allah Hafiz.